and a considerable number of fields, orchards, vineyards, peat bogs, quarries, and so on are owned in common. In the wood, where all the householders continue to take part in the deliberations of their elected communal councils, the communal spirit is especially alive. Towards the end of the winter all the young men of each village go to stay a few days in the woods, to fell timber and to bring it down the steep slopes tobogganing way, the timber and the fuel wood being divided among all households or sold for their benefit. These excursions are real feats of manly labour. On the banks of Lake Leman, part of the work required to keep up the terraces of the vineyards is still done in common, and in the spring, when the thermometer threatens to fall below zero before sunrise, the watchman wakes up all householders, who light fires of straw and dung and protect their vine trees from the frost by an artificial cloud. In nearly all cantons the village communities possess so-called Burgernutzen, that is, they hold in common a number of cows in order to supply each family with butter, or they keep communal fields or vineyards, of which the produce is divided between the burghers, or they rent their land for the benefit of the community. Dr. Reichenberg and Waterberg, The Straits, Volkswirtschaft, Bern, 1903. It may be taken as a rule that where the communes have retained a wide sphere of functions so as to be living parts of a national organism, and where they have not been reduced to sheer misery, they never fail to take good care of their lands. Accordingly, the communal estates in Switzerland strikingly contrast with the miserable state of commons in this country. The communal forests in the wood and the valley are admirably managed, in conformity with the rules of modern forestry. Elsewhere the strips of communal fields, which change owners under the system of allotment, are very well manured, especially as there is no lack of meadows and cattle. The high level meadows are well kept as a rule, and the rural roads are excellent. See on this subject a series of works summed up in one of the excellent and suggestive chapters (not yet translated into English), which K. Boucher has added to the German translation of Lavelle's Primitive Ownership. Also Medzen, Das Agrar- und Forstwesen, Die Allmenden und die Landgemeinden der Deutschen Schweiz in Jahrbuch für Stadtwissenschaft 1880, analysis of Miakowski's works, O'Brien's Notes in a Swiss Village in Macmillan's Magazine, October 1885, And when we admire the Swiss chalet, the mountain road, the peasants' cattle, the terraces of vineyards, or the schoolhouse in Switzerland, we must keep in mind that without the timber for the chalet being taken from the communal woods and the stone from the communal quarries, without the cows being kept on the communal meadows, and the roads being made and the schoolhouses built by communal work, there would be little to admire. It hardly need be said that a great number of mutual aid habits and customs continue to persist in the Swiss villages. The evening gatherings for shelling walnuts, which take place in turns in each household, the evening parties for sweeping the dowry of the girl who is going to marry, the calling of aids for building the houses and taking in the crops, as well as for all sorts of work which may be required by one of the commoners, the custom of exchanging children from one canton to the other in order to make them learn two languages, French and German, and so on, all these are quite habitual. The wedding gifts, which often substantially contribute in this country to the comfort of the young households, are evidently a remainder of the communal habits. While on the other side, diverse modern requirements are met in the same spirit. Thus in Glarus, most of the alpine meadows have been sold during a time of calamity, but the communes still continue to buy field land, and after the newly bought fields have been left in the possession of separate commoners for 10, 20 or 30 years, as the case might be, they return to the common stock, which is reallotted according to the needs of all. A great number of small associations are formed to produce some of the necessaries for life, bread, cheese and wine, by common work, be it only on a limited scale, and agricultural cooperation altogether spreads in Switzerland with the greatest ease. Associations form between 10 to 30 peasants who buy meadows and fields in common and cultivate them as co-owners are of common occurrence, while dairy associations for the sale of milk, butter and cheese are organized everywhere. In fact, Switzerland was the birthplace of that form of cooperation. It offers moreover an immense field for the study of all sorts of small and large societies, formed for the satisfaction of all sorts of modern wants. In certain parts of Switzerland one finds in almost every village a number of associations for protection from fire, for boating, for maintaining the quays on the shores of a lake, for the supply of water, and so on, and the country is covered with societies of archers, sharpshooters, topographers, footpath explorers, and the like, originated from modern militarism. Switzerland is, however, by no means an exception in Europe, because the same institutions and habits are found in the villages of France, of Italy, of Germany, of Denmark, and so on. We have just seen what has been done by the rulers of France in order to destroy the village community and to get hold of its lands. But notwithstanding all that, 1/10 part of the whole territory available for culture, that is 13,500,000 acres, including one half of all the natural meadows and nearly a fifth part of all the forests of the country, remain in communal possession. The wood supplies the communals with fuel, and the timber wood is cut, mostly by communal work, with all desirable irregularity. The grazing lands are free for the communals' cattle, and what remains of communal fields is allotted and reallocated in certain parts, or then in the usual of France, namely in the way. The communes own 4,554,100 acres of woods out of 24,813,000 in the whole territory, and 6,936,300 acres of natural meadows out of 11,394,000 acres in France. The remaining 2,000,000 acres are fields, orchards, and so on. These additional sources of supply, which aid the poorer peasants to pass through a year of bad crops without parting with their small plots of land and without running into irredeemable debts, have certainly their importance for both the agricultural labourers and the nearly 3 millions of small peasant proprietors. It is even doubtful whether small peasant proprietorship could be maintained without these additional resources. But the ethical importance of the communal possessions, small as they are, is still greater than their economical value. They maintain in village life a nucleus of customs and habits of mutual aid, which undoubtedly acts as a mighty check upon the development of reckless individualism and greediness, which small land ownership is only too prone to develop. Mutual aid in all possible circumstances of village life is part of the routine life in all parts of the country. Everywhere we meet, under different names, with a chara, that is, the free aid of the neighbours for taking in a crop, for vintage, or for building a house. Everywhere we find the same evening gatherings, as have just been mentioned in Switzerland, and everywhere the commoners associate for all sorts of work. Such habits are mentioned by nearly all those who have written upon French village life, but it will perhaps be better to give in this place some abstracts from letters which I have just received from a friend of mine, whom I have asked to communicate to me his observations on this subject. They come from an aged man who for years has been the mayor of his commune in South France (in Ariège). The facts he mentions are known to him from long years of personal observation, and they have the advantage of coming from one neighbourhood instead of being skimmed from a large area. Some of them may seem trifling, but as a whole they depict quite a little world of village life. In several communes in our neighbourhood, my friend writes, the old custom of l'emprunt is in vigour. When many hands are required in a métairie for rapidly making some work, dig out potatoes or mow the grass, the youth of the neighbourhood is convoked. Young men and girls come in numbers, make it gaily and for nothing, and in the evening, after a gay meal, they dance. In the same communes, when a girl is going to marry, the girls of the neighbourhood come to aid in sewing the dowry. In several communes the women still continues to spin a good deal. When the winding off has to be done in a family, it is done in one evening, all friends being convoked for that work. In many communes of the Ariège and other parts of the southwest, the shelling of the Indian corn sheaves is also done by all the neighbours. They are treated with chestnuts and wine, and the young people dance after the work has been done. The same custom is practiced for making nut oil and crushing ham. In the commune of L, the same is done for bringing in the corn crops. These days of hard work become fete days, as the owner takes his honor on serving a good meal. No remuneration is given, all do it for each other. In Caucasia they even do better among the Georgians. As the meal costs, and a poor man cannot afford to give it, a sheep is bought by those same neighbours who come to aid in the work. In the commune of S, the common grazing land is every year increased, so that nearly the whole of the land of the commune is now kept in common. The shepherds are elected by all owners of the cattle, including women. The bulls are communal. In the commune of M, the 40 to 50 small sheep flocks of the commoners are brought together and divided into 3 or 4 flocks before being sent to the higher meadows. Each owner goes for a week to serve as shepherd. In the hamlet of C, a threshing machine has been bought in common by several households, the 15 to 20 persons required to serve the machine being supplied by all the families. 3 other threshing machines have been bought and are rented out by their owners, but the work is performed by outside helpers invited in the usual way. In our